Aradia. Oh, conniption. I'm so proud of you. Hi, Jojo. Yes, yes, I am. Oh my gosh. What year is it? Um, 20 years. Almost, almost. We're working on 19 right now. Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've known the host. So if I remember correctly, DID wasn't the term used for it. I didn't actually know what the term was. The only term I was familiar was multiple personality disorder. Um, but no, it wasn't. It wasn't something I thought during the moment. I just in my end, I thought they just created a lot of personas for, but I never like pursued like why. I just like okay, this is just something that they do. But now learning more about it from the conversations we've had, a lot of the things started to kind of piece together. So now I'm learning. I'm learning more as we kind of explore the topic of it. So I'm actually like the default basis of someone who is very much an outside perspective of what DID is. No, no, I still love them equally, if not more than ever. Oh, okay. Hmm. I had a lot of questions. I just didn't know where to start. It's kind of like having like an empty map. Like from the video games you've played, like there's always like a map that you start off and then everything is all fogged away. So typically with topics like this that come new to me, I don't really know where to start looking for more information. But as soon as you started explaining more, I'm like, okay, where a lot of more roadways started pathing out, and a lot more things started to make sense and fall into place. And that I was actually surrounded by other people who may have this kind of um who may have some these DID like things that you've been explaining. So it's really putting a lot of perspective in on me to kind of and see these uh these patterns amongst my friends and other people.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And unfortunately, I just realized my microphone wasn't being picked up
No.
until until right now. Until right now. So I'm just gonna repeat myself really quick. So as Jojo was saying, that they commonly mistook DID for multiple personality disorder. Up until recently, those had actually been hand in hand the same thing, but they are actually the same thing. They just changed the way that MPD is called, so now it's just called DID, or dissociative identity disorder. Um, Jojo, talking to yourself is pretty much a good example of how it feels sometimes as DID, actually. So I can actually use that as an example. Despite my look, I'm not tech savvy. That's my host. My host is
That,
more tech savvy than I
that's
am.
okay.
Okay.
You're learning new things every day.
Exactly. And again, that is something that we can take into account. So talking to yourself may feel like, oh, am I going crazy, or am I just expressing my thoughts externally rather than internally? It's a lot of things that do commonly, get misdiagnosed, or they tell you, oh, you just daydream a lot, or you have ADHD, or you're autistic, or you're somewhere on that spectrum. Um,
Hmm.
but sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes it's something similar to, there are multiple people talking at the same time, and your brain and your mind and your thoughts start getting louder and louder, and it almost feels like voices are overlapping a bit. Um, and then there will be times, and I actually, on my debut stream, uh, it had gone silent for a second there, and I responded to somebody in my brain out loud, and I didn't realize I did it until like a minute later, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I was having a totally different conversation with somebody else. And that's something that's very common, unfortunately. So you'll see people who, will be talking to themselves, and they'll be kind of like having these conversations within themselves, and not realize that maybe they're not just talking to themselves, they might be talking to somebody else. Now, I can only speak as a system from my system's point of view. So my host has their own things that they have gone through, and of course they have been officially diagnosed by a psychiatrist and a therapist, just to double check on that. Um, there's medication that you can take, but for the most part, DID is not something that's curable. The most treatments that you can do, they do involve some pretty intense therapy sessions that involve going into like the deep recesses of your mind, because the disassociative part of DID is probably the scariest part, because and I'm sure the host has told you a little bit about this, Jojo. There will be times where conversations will happen, and then they don't remember anything, or they don't
Hmm.
remember that in conversation. It's like gaps in memory, and that's probably the scariest part of DID. The just not knowing what had happened, or not knowing who you just spoke to, or not knowing who was speaking to who, or how that interacted with what. Um, and of course, there's different types of DID within a system. For example, I am what's called the child of the DID group. I'm very small, very, very childlike. And My purpose is mostly to just fill in the gaps of whatever childhood my host didn't really get to experience, so they get to
Hmm.
experience things in a almost childlike state through me, and I
Hmm.
really like it. It's really fun. And then of course we also have people that are like I believe they're called the protector. So anytime that there is something happening with the host, they can either kind of take the wheel for a moment to make sure that they are taken care of. So it's kind of like, hey, you need to take your medication. I'm going to make sure you take your medication. I'm going to make sure you're hydrated. I'm going to make sure that you have all of these things that you need in order to help you function, because right now your body and the host themselves is not capable of doing so. So the protector's job is to do just that. They protect. Now it's not just, of course, managing the body. It can also be managing the mind. So if there is something that is almost like a threat, think of it like PTSD. How a sound or a word or something you see can trigger that PTSD, is very similar. So there are triggers whenever it comes to these different altars. So for the protector, if there is something that seems to be a threat, there's a possibility that that altar can come out as a protection mechanism for the host.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure that's a lot of words that I just said that you don't understand.
No, no, I'm following very, very carefully.
Okay, okay. Did you have any questions regarding altars, hosts, and then different types of systems?
Mm-mm. So far, everything has been like very 1, 2, 3, 4, like on like following. So I'm just absorbing all this information and keeping it inside my noggin.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, there's also the aspect of like how social media will handle it. There's a lot of movies that'll come out where it's like, oh, they're hiding a serial killer inside of them, or, they're like this or they're like that. So there are certain movies that do touch up a little bit on DID and how it works. Um, there's one movie that comes to mind. I can't remember what it's called. One second. Oh, the movie Split. Have you ever heard of that movie?
The movie Split. I think if I see the cover of it, I think I will.
Hang on. I will post it in the Discord. I'll show
Oh,
you a
yes,
picture.
yes. Oh,
Yeah, that
yes.
one. So, oddly enough, it's not a terrible representation. Obviously, it's dramatized because it's big movie business, you know?
Hmm.
But besides it being a dramatic telling of what DID is like, that's pretty spot on. It is pretty
Oh.
spot on. It's pretty close. And this is again from my perspective. Now the whole switching thing is that's like a whole, topic of things that's not normally touched up on. Everyone can switch alters differently. For the most part, you can't really control it. It just happens, you know.
Hmm.
You can have positive triggers to try to push those altars forward, but for the most part, your altars aren't there as a fun little, gag thing where you can just like snap your fingers and then here they are.
Hmm.
It's a protection. That's what we're here for. We're here to protect your mind from, traumatic things that you may have experienced. So this idea for the movie Split, the reason that it's a good example is because you don't really see the switch, but you see how each of the different um, mannerisms or the different alters carry themselves.
Hmm.
There's female alters, there's childlike alters, there's serious like adult alters, there's, some that are almost like a young adult. They're all various ages, and they hold themselves in different mannerisms in different ways. That's a lot like DID. And that's why I say it's a good example of what DID could look like as a dramatic version of it. Now, don't use split as a example of how DID should look. That is not correct. We're not psychopaths, I swear. And that's kind of the scary thing. A lot of people think that if you have DID, that it's kind of like a red flag. And I don't really understand that. Maybe it's just because there's multiple people to deal with, and some people can't even handle one person, much less a whole mindful. I'm sorry, I'm talking your ear off. Did you have any questions?
No. You weren't, Claudia. I promise you, you were not. I love to absorb information, and
Ah,
I'm just like compartmentalizing it in my head, just like making sure it sticks.
mm-hmm.
I promise. I am very much here, and I'm learning a lot. I'm learning actually a lot. I promise you.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions, of course. Have you ever had those moments where, and of course these are just, you don't have to answer them if they're too personal or anything like that. Um, but have you ever had those moments where you're looking in the mirror and you have that sudden realization of, I don't know what I'm looking at, or I don't know who I'm looking at. Like it's almost kind of like having, what's the phrase? Uh,
Body
yeah, body
dysmorphia.
dysmorphia. I mean, everyone has body dysmorphia at some point in their lives, but
Hmm.
have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, hmm, uh, what is that? Or who is that? Or what am I looking at?
Does it count if there's like moments where once I do look in the mirror, or when I do get the chance, like there's times I feel either great confidence and then like absolute like I wouldn't say self-loathing, but like some days I'll be like, wow, I actually look pretty good, and then other days I'm like, why do I look like that?
So that's a good that's a good start. So you know how when you're describing it, you're saying, why do I look like that? Or
Hmm.
I look pretty good. Or, you know, my hair looks really nice. When you're thinking those things, you're thinking of it from a personal perspective of me, eyes, and all of like the personal like adjectives and stuff like that. Those words. um, People with DID or MPD or however they want to phrase it tend to look in the mirror and be like, if they say, I look good today, or they look good today, or we look good today, using um, those words that describe multiple people is a big sign. It's not saying that you have DID. I'm not saying that at all, of course.
Hmm.
But that does like give you a little bit of an indicator of we're talking about multiple people here. And since we are in Pride Month, happy Pride, everyone. Um,
Happy Pride.
I felt like it was really important to discuss this because when it comes to, um, having DID, a lot of the times, people who, you know, go through and decide what their pronouns are, for me, it's they, them, it, which a lot of people don't actually use the term it very often, mostly because it's not as common as you would think. But a lot of people with DID or MPD or however you want to phrase it tend to be they thems or have pronouns that describe multiple in a sense because that's what they are. They're very gender fluid or non-binary or something along those lines because when it comes to MPD you can or DID you can have these different personalities that are, like I said, childlike like myself, or you can have some that are um, adult in nature, some that are wise upon their years. You can have some that are the host. Um, Hi, Kitty, and hi, Derek. Derek says there's not really much media that shows DID in a positive light, sadly enough. Exactly. A lot of the times it's used as a horror trope, which is kind of sad. It
Mhm.
is very, very sad. Um, but yeah, whenever it comes to that, it's just kind of it definitely solidifies, the mental aspect of like where you are and where we are as a system. So it's really hard to just, decide if I feel like being a lady today, or if I feel like being manly today, if I feel like just being comfortable today, do I feel like nothing today? and it's really rough. And I'm sorry if I'm like stumbling over my words a little bit, um, because it's hard to gather. Hmm. Okay,
You're
so
totally fine.
so that's
Breathe, breathe. Ooh. Okay, no, breathe slowly. You know what?
so
That's on me. I should have said slowly.
okay, so let me describe this the best way that I know how. I'm trying to talk about DID without a script in front of me because I'm speaking from experiences, obviously. Um, when I'm talking about it, I'm hearing so many different people being like, you need to also mention this, and you need to mention that, and you need to mention this, and that, and this, and that. And I'm overwhelming myself because everyone else is talking at the same time. And it's and that's why if I stop talking and like pause and then start saying something else and then pause and then say something else, or and I try to continue a thought, it's because there's multiple people being like, hey, don't forget this. Hey, what about that over there? Hey, don't forget this piece of information. It's kind of important. So it's a little rough. You know what? The best way to describe it is think of it like you're trying to pay attention to one cute little puppy, but you're in a pen of puppies, and all of the puppies want the
That's so
treat
many
in your
puppies.
hand. And that's what I'm going through. There's so many puppies who want attention right now.
That's okay. If you do need to take the time to just take a moment, breathe. Not like that. I don't want you to pass out. No. No!
uh, why don't we take a minute and take some questions from chat if they have any questions about DID, BPD, or any other disorders that they want to talk about. We can definitely do that. Hi Bloom, Aradia. I hope you're doing well. I am just a little overwhelmed today, but I mean, who isn't? Am I right?
You're absolutely right.
It's just like that sometimes.
It do be like that sometimes.
It really do be. I will say, um, and again, not everyone has this. I will say that PTSD is also something that does go hand in hand with DID sometimes because it's triggers and
Mhm.
traumas. Now, just because you have DID doesn't necessarily mean that you've gone through traumas in your life, but something significant must have happened. And I'm just speaking as a broad stroke conversation. I'm not saying that this is correct, just from personal perspective. But people who, tend to have a lot of traumatic experiences as, children all the way to adulthood tend to be diagnosed with PTSD or DID, whereas my host has actually been diagnosed with both, unfortunately. I say unfortunately like it's a bad thing, but once you start getting the therapy for it and once you actually start getting the help that you need, it makes it much more manageable in everyday life. Hi, Derek.
Hello.
Let me
Got
get
free
you in
early.
here. Yeah. I gotta get you on the screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Since you just joined us, Derek, did you have any questions about DID and PD or anything like that, or anything off that topic that we can also discuss?
Not directly off the top of my head.
Yes. Okay. That means I'm doing a good job. That means I'm discussing things properly.
Yes,
Yes,
from
you
what
are.
I did hear.
Good. How do I do this? Okay, I take that, and then I do that, and then I do that, and then oh no, there's this thing on the screen, and then I do this, and then now there's two of you. Now I gotta get rid of this one and put you right there, and I gotta make this bigger. And then, oh, that's too big. That's too big. That's too big. Here we go. Yes. I did it.
Oh,
Why are you so far away? Hang on a second. I don't like that.
way over here.
Hang on. Let me just do this. And I grab one of those and I scoot you over a little closer to me. And then I get this. And then I'm gonna grab where's Derek? I'm panicking.
No. You're okay. Oh,
I may have partially derailed the topic. I apologize.
No,
That's
no,
okay.
you're fine. There. Wait, that one? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. You're gonna be this grumpy looking old man.
That makes sense. It's fine.
There we go. I fixed it. Everything is okay. Everyone's on the screen now. Okay. So yeah.
Okay.
Jojo, did you have any questions? Concerns?
No questions or concerns at this time.
Any critiques you would like to give Aradia?
Absolutely none. You're doing a fabulous job.
Don't you lie to me.
I would never lie to you.
I don't think JoJo's capable of lying.
Oh, you're right.
What? How dare?
Is that bad? Is that a bad thing?
No.
No.
Yes? Maybe?
No. No.
Either that or he's so capable we'll never know.
No.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun. I'm looking through all of my notes to see what good topics we can talk about. Ooh, what juicy topics. One thing I will say, please seek medical attention if you feel depressed or anxious and it makes you feel any sort of bad way. Because remember, we're supposed to be here to help you, but if we're not helping you, you need to find help. And I will find resources, that way you guys can find help. There's a lot of really good people out there who really want to help you and help you understand yourselves better, so please take care of yourselves. Let me see. There was something I wanted to touch up on. Are there a lot of movies with DID? The Split movie is the only one that I know about.
It's like I was saying, there's not really much media out there. Nothing that I can think of, and at the top of my head, that shows anything in a positive light. You think of all the times where they use it as some kind of element for like the bad guy in like different crime shows and things like that.
Yeah, like the reason why someone would cause or commit a crime.
This person's not a bad person, but they're alter. Ooh.
Oh no, yeah, I'm looking at different movies that are about they're loosely about DID, and I wish there was more affordable help in my area. My therapist only sees me every 2 weeks, and that's if I'm lucky and she doesn't cancel, which she frequently does. That's not good. I'll look for more resources. I'll send the I'm sure that they have other locations like all over, the states and stuff like that, depending on your location. I will make a post on where I found my therapist. They were wonderful, very sweet, very accommodating, always a wonderful, conversationalist. You can find somebody. And remember, you don't have to settle if even if you find that you like this therapist, but if they're continuously canceling on you, you're there to get help. You're not there to just line their pockets. You are there to seek the attention that is needed for you mentally. So if they're not helping you, you need to go find somebody who will. And I will post resources whenever I get them. I just have to make sure that they are credible so that I'm not sending y'all to the wrong places. But looking at movies about loosely about dissociative identity disorder, one of the number one that pops up, other than Split, is Fight Club.
Oh.
So it's a good example of the disassociative part. It's the gaps in memory. It's definitely the gaps in memory because he doesn't remember this person. He's having a full conversation with this person. This other person has a whole um relationship and like situationship with this lady. And then, it's just there's so much happening and he doesn't even realize that it's him the entire time, and that's like the whole twist of the end of the movie, which is a very interesting take. But keep in mind, although it is possible to have destructive alters, they're not always destructive. In my case, whenever I look at Fight Club in particular, I can't really tell you what the main character's goal is through the movie because I don't remember it. But when it comes to Fight Club, it's the way that I remember them describing it was it's everything he wanted to be was this character. It was played by Brad Pitt. Um so everyone it was everything that this character wanted to be and then some, which kind of creates this alter of yep, that's me. That's what I want to be, so therefore I become them. And that's kind of how alters can work. Sometimes they can just poof into existence. Now at the very end, whenever he does, and by the way, if this is a spoiler for you, that movie came out in 1999. I don't know how you haven't seen it yet. So I apologize for spoilers. But at the very end, he kind of comes to the conclusion of, oh, that was me the whole time, which is the whole twist. But he kind of becomes the person that he wanted to be, like he accepts it. That is another good example. Like there's a bunch of good examples within bad movies with bad examples of DID, but that is a good example of what's called fusing. Alters can fuse. So, for example, Derek, how long have you known the host?
Oh, shoot, I think it's almost going on 25 years.
25. 20 years and 25 years for the both of you. That's insane. over over the years, how often would you say that you had seen the host kind of go through not trends necessarily, but like changes? Like they change their personality, they change the friend groups that they're with, they change their clothes a lot, they change what their style is, they change this or that, they became obsessed with something and then only to drop it and then become obsessed with something else. How often would you say that that has happened with them?
Hmm, That's an interesting question.
Just that you have noticed, I suppose.
Well, I mean, it's often enough. I wouldn't say it would. Huh. Yeah, I'd say pretty often at least since I can remember, since high school.
Ah, so since high school. What about you, Jojo?
Probably the same. I wouldn't know anything like in the earlier years, but from when we met, as I think often, not like frequent, but often.
Okay. So, funny enough, what you may not have realized and what they may not even realize, and this might be a little bit of a sad thing to take into account. So, alters can fuse together and become what's like a new alter. That has happened multiple times in their life. There are times where the host can no longer be the host. So the person that you knew when you first met them might not be the same person you know today. Because somebody else could have taken over the host's wheels, or somebody else could have fused with the host and become a new person. Those are all things that are very common with dissociative identity disorder. And it's kind of a scary thought because it's almost like losing yourself in a sense, but becoming something new, better, and in some cases worse. So some people call it outgrowing themselves or outgrowing what they used to do or that they're not that person anymore. That is a very common phrase that you would be surprised at, how much truth that holds with somebody with DID. Saying, hey, I'm not that person anymore, could be 100% fact. They may not be that person who they were whenever they did something in the past or said something in the past, or if they just don't remember it at all. There's some things that they might not remember, and then they'll ask you, hey, can you fill in the gaps? And because you've known them for so long, you're able to fill in those gaps, but they won't remember a single thing because maybe that wasn't them. Maybe that was somebody else.
Yeah, I'd say that makes sense. I mean, like I said, there's been a significant amount of times that I can remember the host changing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to say that hmm,
And I will say, hearing the hmms and the ohs, it definitely make me um feel like maybe this isn't discussed enough because that's definitely something to think about, right? Because this person you've known your entire life could be multiple people that you didn't even realize you were talking to. And I'm looking at all these movies and they're all like horror thrillers. What the heck?
yeah, they really
Yeah.
are. Or if you take someone like, I was looking it up right now too, and like people are like giving examples like Moon Knight. Like, yeah, he's got some pretty significant DID, but it's always
The
got some kind of
moon
negative
haunts
connotation to
you.
it one way or another.
That is correct. Yeah, that does make sense actually. Hantu is his altar. That's amazing. Imagine having a god as your altar. Couldn't be me. I'm just a child. I like the blocks in the corner. The host altar can change. That's a thing. Yes, yes, it is. It's again, it's something you might not even realize can happen. It is 100% possible. Um, the reason I brought that up is because I was talking about Fight Club, and at the very end of Fight Club, he kind of comes into this. That's me now, and Brad Pitt's character stops showing up. That's an idea of possibly, there's a possibility of he fused and just became this one person, or Brad Pitt's character, that alter, took over and became the host. Those are two possibilities because what I think happened from my interpretation with someone with DID, I think what happened is they actually fused. Because if it was the opposite effect where Brad Pitt's character, the alter, became the host, then I think at the end we would be seeing Brad Pitt's character standing there with, the girlfriend, who is played by Helena Bonham Carter, who is awesome, by the way. Um, so at the end he would be standing there instead of Edward Norton's character. So it's just kind of an interesting perspective.
Definitely
So,
one of those ones that's left up to interpretation, I think.
right, and those are the two interpretations that I would personally pull if I'm thinking about it from a dissociative identity disorder perspective. Um, So that's something to take into account. Just because these are bad representations of DID doesn't mean that they don't have things to take note of as to what can actually happen with somebody with DID. It's something that I've been wondering about. Too Long Don't Read. Having been the host alter for 32 years has been extremely hard. I'll have to look into that. Selfish of me to say, but I need a break. And you know what? That is also something that can happen if the host is starting to get overwhelmed, if they're starting to feel like they can't handle something mentally, or the mental load or the stress is just too much. Boom, alter switch. That is something that can happen. Now, there are times where the host will not be in the driver's seat for a long period of time. They will still be considered the host, but an alter will be taking the wheel for, let's say, months, sometimes years, and then all of a sudden, poof, the host is back. That is possible. That is entirely possible. Then there's also times where just the host doesn't want to be the host anymore, and depending on, your own mental abilities and everything going on with the alters and how the system works for you, it's possible that somebody else could just take control of the host and then become the host, and then that person that you once were is now an alter. It's so confusing, and it's such an interesting concept for a lot of people, because people who don't have DID won't know what that feels like, but somebody with DID won't know what that feels like either, because when it happens, it's just, it happened. There it is. There you go. Now you like blocks. You didn't like them before, but you like blocks now. Maybe I just want to play with blocks. I might want to play with blocks right now. Sorry. And then, of course, there's different ways that are kind of like flags of, you're talking to somebody different. Example, what is something that is my host's favorite thing?
Well, off the top of my head, ramen.
Ramen is good.
Just movies in general.
Movies? Okay, so let's say one day the host says, I'm gonna watch a good movie and eat some ramen. And then the next day, you offer to continue a different series or a different continuation of said movie that that they really like, and have some more of that ramen that they really like, and they look at you in disgust like, no, I don't want to do that. That's dumb. If that were ever to happen, I promise you're not talking to the host.
I'm gonna keep that in mind.
Yeah. If there are things that they love to do and then suddenly they don't want to do it, you might be talking to somebody who doesn't like to do that.
Oh.
From my perspective, like I said, I'm not very tech savvy. I make a lot of mistakes with the streaming and the stuff like that. I was given detailed notes by host to make sure that I got this right, and I still messed it up at the beginning. I have to go entertain people. I'll see you later. It's nice talking to you. You too, Bloom. Have a good one.
Have a good day, Bloom.
But yeah, so it's just kind of interesting how you can like something and then suddenly not like it anymore, or how you could be super obsessed with it and then just forget about it. And then it won't be until, oh, this is a good example. So yesterday the host was unboxing some stuff for their office, right? And they opened up a box and they're like, whoa, I remember this anime. This is awesome. Who's this though? And there was another figure that they had, and they don't know who it was. They don't know what it's from. They didn't have any idea what it was, but obviously they used to like it because they had a whole figure from it. But they had no idea. They didn't remember anything of the character. I don't know who it is. I'm recent, so I was just bored. So I didn't know. I couldn't help. But someone in the past really was like, wow, I really like this anime. I really like this character. And they just couldn't remember. Didn't know who that was. Isn't that wild? It's like you don't get bored of it. You just forget that it exists.
Oh.
Also, I'm looking at all these movies because it's driving me nuts that there's so many thriller horrors. It makes me kind of upset. So, the list shows is like Fight Club, Split, Me, Myself, and Irene. I've actually never seen that movie. I don't know if the host has, but I've never seen that movie.
Yeah.
Is it good?
It's got Jim Carrey in it.
That didn't answer my question.
It's a comedy. It's an okay movie.
Okay movie? Okay.
Yeah. Probably.
It's
another one with someone who has a weird alter, basically.
Oh. 17-year-old veteran of Rhode Island police force. Charlie is a mild-mannered, hard-working, always helpful, and a devoted and loving father to 3 sons. Unfortunately, Charlie has split personality disorder, and when he runs out of his medication... Oh, wait, what? He's on medication to keep him from switching? That doesn't make sense.
I don't remember that much about that movie.
I'm reading the synopsis.
Yeah.
Meet Hank Bailey Gates, Charlie's hyper-aggressive alter ego. Hank's got a filthy mouth, drinks like a fish, breaks skulls, and loves dirty... Ah! No! Ew! No! But it is unfortunately a thing that can happen. I see. Okay, so it's 3 alters. And apparently he gets off of his medication and then he just kind of splits. That's odd. Because medication doesn't do that for you.
It's definitely a lot earlier before like DID was as more well researched.
It looks like it's more of a gag, I suppose, in this
Oh
movie,
yeah, without a doubt.
Okay. Yeah, no, with medication for DID, the only medication that you really get is for antidepressants, because it's for like anxiety and then depression, because it's very common for people with DID to get severe depression, like really, really bad depression, which is the whole point of like protectors in a system and stuff like that. So they can help regulate, they can help make sure that you're taking your medication and that you're being taken care of. But yeah, that's a little unusual. Medication isn't supposed to help you from switching. Switching is just something that happens. It's not controlled. Like, that's kind of where I touched up on earlier, discussing like you can have positive triggers to try to switch, but it's not something that you have full control over. Some people might, but it's not recommended to force a switch, because if you do that, then you're kind of tricking your brain into thinking that there is a situation where they're needed and then they're not actually needed. It's kind of like using up a shield on something that doesn't need to be shielded and then breaking the shield like over time. It's hard to describe, other than you shouldn't do that because we're a defense mechanism. We're not to be abused and used like that. We're not entertainment. And despite I mean, obviously this channel was made strictly for me. It used to be a second channel for my host, but we started talking about possibly discussing DID a little bit more so that we could have our own conversations documented and then maybe help people who are a lot like us who just didn't know anything or didn't have a lot of experience with it. And they were inspired by someone on TikTok. I have to get their name, but they're pretty neat, if I do say so myself. And they post a lot of content, to get rid of the stigma for DID. So as far as being used for content, it's not something that I feel like I am being used for, because it's more within my comfort. If I don't want to do it, they're not going to make me do it. And if they don't want to do it, I'm not going to make them do it. That kind of thing. It's respecting people because we are people. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, I know this one. Psycho. Not a good representation of DID. This is more of somebody who had a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretending to be his mom kind of thing. Again, if you don't know this movie, come on now. This is a black and white movie. You should have seen this by now. It's a classic.
Just spoiler warning going forward. If you hear the name of a movie and you don't want to know anything about it,
skip. But yeah, no, it's not a good example. Psycho doesn't really have any good examples in it. Not like Fight Club or Split or even Me, Myself, and Irene, oddly enough. They don't have good examples. They all had good examples of what can happen, but not, what I guess will happen. If that makes sense. But man, no, not Psycho. That's not a good one. I mean, it's a good movie, but it's not a good one. Not a good example. Let me see. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm gonna quiz you guys now. Do you guys think that's a good example of DID?
I would say probably not, because it's more of like you were saying, like a forced.
A forced trigger?
Yeah.
Jojo, what do you think?
I was gonna say the same.
Yeah, that is correct. Or at least, again, from my perspective. So for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it is a forced trigger. This is a good example of, like, using that forced trigger, because obviously he's creating this concoction, he drinks it, and then he turns into Mr. Hyde, and Mr. Hyde has got murderous intent and all that stuff. So not a good example. Also, what is with movies creating this agenda of, oh, they're murderers deep down. Oh, their altar's going to kill you.
I think it's just an easy plot line for writers to write about, and like,
no, it's not. It's lazy.
oh, it's never the person that you. Well, from their point of view, like, oh, it's never the person that you expect, because they're obviously a nice person, but then you find out later on that, oh, well, they're a different person on the inside. Oh no.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But like, that's
It's yes, it's really not good representation.
I've seen there was a YouTuber, I don't know their name, but there was a YouTuber that I watched, and they did a video, and it actually brought up DID, or somebody that had DID, or BPD, or MPD, or however they described it. I don't remember, but I know it had something to do with DID, and the host got so mad, because they were like, oh, they have DID, that's a red flag. Send them to a mental institute. And I was like, oh, that's so not nice.
No.
That's not nice at all.
It's just the way that, like, oh shit, I forgot, I lost the word.
No, I get you. I understand. But it's just, that's so mean, right? Like, oh, send them to a mental institute. But imagine doing that to me. I'm a child. You can't do that to me. I don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on. That's not fair. Not everyone's crazy. Actually, most DID people are not crazy at all. Ugh, it just makes me so mad. Let's see. There's a lot of movies on here that I've never seen. They sound familiar. Shutter Island?
Oh, Shutter Island's a good horror movie.
It's got DiCaprio in it.
Is that would that be considered DID though?
Apparently, it's under the list of movies about dissociative identity disorder. No, I don't want to spoil it for myself. I'm not gonna read it. But yeah, there's a few movies that are good examples, and then some that are just like it's loose. That's really pushing it. That's not really that's not really the best example.
It's just showing how much like certain mental health issues just are stigmatized.
Yeah. Alright. We are reaching the end of this episode of the Lore Project, talking about a system. Did you have any other questions for me? Concerns? Critiques for Arvadius?
Nope, nothing on my end.
You've done a good job so far.
Yes! I know the content's a little slow for some people, but you know what? I really hope that I'm at least getting the point across, because that's the whole point of these, these episodes. The first episode's obviously always going to be the roughest, because I'm not sure what to talk about, and my brain's all over the place, and then everyone else is just shouting at me, and I don't like it. I don't appreciate it.
Well, you need to tell them to stop shouting at you and to write everything down on a piece of paper.
Oh, well, they don't have to, because we have that Simply Plural app, which, by the way, you guys should totally look into if you have DID or suspect that you have DID. It's a really good app. It's how I talk to all of the alters. And the host. The host can also talk to you on there, too. They're laughing at me, though. I don't appreciate it.
They just put you in the forefront.
I know! She's like, here you go, into the fire.
It's your job now.
Right into the fire pit. Have some blocks.
Oh, where are the blocks? Where are they?
I need the blocks. Give me the blocks. Quick, Editor Jojo, throw blocks at me.
No, they'll set them right next to you. Nothing's gonna be thrown at you.
Go balance them in the corner.
Yeah. Balance them on your head. And then make a little, hang on. I have to read this real quick. Okay. Host left me a message saying, feel free to ask for ridiculous stuff from Editor Jojo.
Come on!
Okay.
I will speak with them later.
Okay, Editor Jojo, I need you to grab the blocks. I need you to put them on both of y'all's heads. And now I need you to make a little tower shape between you guys. And then I need you to put a singular block with a heart on it on my head. Yeah.
Just like that. Perfect.
Just like that. As explained.
That's awesome.
Good job, Editor.
Oh yeah, actually, before we go, I have questions. Why do they call you Editor?
Why do they call you Editor?
Well, you see, I did put on an egg costume.
Oh.
And I did a little dance. And that has stuck with me this entire time. And now I'm an Editor instead of Editor.
Surely.
Wait, you have an egg costume?
What's next on the docket?
Can I see it?
Yes, you can see it. I'll show you in a little bit.
Yes. Well, thank you guys for hanging out for the first episode of the Lore Project. I know it's a
Thank
little
you.
clunky. Hopefully, Eggeder Jojo can make it sound professional and real neat and real nice and all that stuff, and not so this. Okay. Bye bye. Oh wait, y'all
Bye,
gotta say
people.
bye bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.